Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon or good morning to the board. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself, Kyle Robertson from Market Forces, and I would also like to commend Commonwealth Bank on the progress it's made in recent years, particularly with its upstream oil and gas finance activity and its policy, bringing it into alignment with its commitment to the Paris Agreement. We've seen Commonwealth Bank almost halve its upstream oil and gas lending exposure in the last 2 years, and that's off the back of the commitment that you pointed to previously, Mr. O'Malley, to only fund companies in this sector that are aligned with the Paris climate goals. And now, while acknowledging that, we also wanted to point out that CommBank's financing of companies in other parts of the oil and gas sector do threaten to undermine this current progress if it's not addressed. In 2023, CommBank announced that it would no longer directly finance transmission pipelines for new gas extraction projects, a welcome development with CommBank's commitments. Yet one of CommBank's corporate clients, APA Group, is proposing to do just that for one of the biggest gas developments in Australia, the Beetaloo sub-basin. Now, this is a project that, if developed to the scale that its proponents are hoping to achieve, would release an estimated 1.1 billion tonnes of CO2 equivalent. That's over 2.5 times Australia's entire annual emissions in the year to March 2024. So APA's involvement in the Beetaloo sub-basin raises serious questions about its transition plan, which will be put forward at its upcoming annual general meeting. The total end-user emissions from the gas that will be burned from these Beetaloo pipelines will result in a 76% increase in APA's current emissions profile. And that's despite the International Energy Agency concluding that emissions from gas must fall 23% by 2030. So it's been reported that CommBank loaned $50 million to APA Group in November 2023, and then last month also acted as a co-manager on a $1.9 billion bond for the company. CommBank's current requirement for a transition plan doesn't apply to midstream oil and gas companies. So the question is, if CommBank wouldn't fund the company developing the oil and gas at the end of the pipeline, then why is it willing to fund the company developing the pipeline? The end result will be the same. Huge gas resources being burned that the world simply can't afford. So my question is CommBank at all concerned about financing a company like APA Group, who is pursuing plans in a different part of the oil and gas value chain that are inconsistent with its otherwise stringent Paris requirements for upstream clients?
Thank you very much, Kyle. As usual, very well thought through, and we appreciate the conversation, the opportunity we have to meet with you and the team each year. I think Market Forces certainly are very clear in their objectives. As we've said in those meetings, we're absolutely focused on the commitments that we have in our climate report. And I think, to be fair, you've acknowledged that we've made commitments and we're adhering to those commitments. So we don't make our commitments unless they're very well thought through and we believe we can deliver on them. As part of Australia's energy transition, I mentioned in the prepared remarks, there's a substantial investment needed in renewables, but the Australian Electric Market Operator has also indicated that there is an increasing need for peaking capacity to firm renewables so that we have a stable electricity grid and the lights stay on. And I do acknowledge that the lights were turned on for us today, so we appreciate that. But it's not simple to say that it's all renewables without firming, and we do not have all of the answers, which is why we look to the regulators, and AEMO in particular, but also governments, to make sure we understand that we will have a stable and operating electricity grid, because that's important not only for the economic fabric of Australia, but also for Australian society. We need to have power. So we will look over the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months to make sure that there is the right support for those companies that deliver the energy we need in a firmed manner for Australia. And we will also make sure that we make commitments in our next climate report that we can adhere to, and that they all sit within our commitment to Paris Agreement and a net zero economy by 2050. So I think you'll find that our commitments stack up, but they also ensure that we have a stable and operating and appropriately carbon-free electricity grid within Australia.
Acknowledging what you said, and just wanted to point out that the main issue for consideration here is consistency with CommBank's already committed policies to upstream oil and gas, which is that the bank has seemingly already determined that clients without Paris-aligned plans are not going to be financed, and that should apply to companies that are also participating in projects that the bank wouldn't be willing to participate in. But thank you for your answer.
And thank you for your question. I'm sure we'll continue to engage.